Marker brushes in Procreate are one of the fastest ways to add shading and value to your sketches, and I use them on pretty much every drawing that I do. Markers are a classic way to add value on paper drawings, and as a designer, I use marker brushes in Procreate all the time, as it's fast and I can do a lot all in one layer. You don't need to make it complicated with markers. You can do almost everything with one brush if you want to, using a square or a rectangle shaped marker. There's a few markers in Procreate by default, and you can probably find some decent ones online. The ones that I use are custom brushes that I've made myself, as I couldn't find anything that I really wanted to use all the time. To add quick shading with markers, you pretty much use them exactly like you would with normal markers on paper. You start out with a light opacity and then slowly start building up the value in the areas that you want to be darker. Different marker shapes can be really good for getting into smaller areas, but you can also use them with things like a bigger size to cover larger areas quickly. Or like I said, you can use smaller or different shaped brushes to get into more detailed areas. What I really like about markers is how they have a subtle blending effect. The way these brushes are set up is so that it kind of builds up like it would a real marker, while still leaving some texture and a subtle stroke line when the lines overlap. Having it so the markers aren't perfectly blended all the time, it gives it a lot more character, and it makes it so that it doesn't look totally digital. Some of the marker variations that I use have a classic marker, which is kind of like a slightly rectangular shape, and I use this for pretty much everything that I would want to do in a sketch. And if I want to cover a larger area, I simply increase the size of the brush. I also use a soft blended edge marker brush a lot. So one of my favorite brushes in Procreate is the soft airbrush, but this is a variation which also acts like a marker. So it still has that marker texture, but it has a really soft outer edge, so it creates a smoother blended appearance. I also really like to use a broad tip marker to cover large areas. So I have a few different markers for covering a larger area. I have a broad tip marker and a flat marker as well. And I also have some other brush shapes like an oval marker brush, but the way that you use these, it depends on the sketch and the kind of shapes that you're trying to fit the marker brush into. Sometimes I also like to use a marker style pencil brush. So when you use a marker in real life, you'll have the two ends. You'll have like a chisel tip marker and also a fine tip marker. So I also have a fine tip marker in my marker brush pack, and I like to use this for sketching and also for things like outlines as well. Another marker brush that I use all the time is an occlusion marker. This is something that's really good for adding shadows along only one edge. Again, this is something that I couldn't really find out there in the default Procreate pack. So this is a custom brush shape that I made for my own marker pack. So this brush keeps a sharp edge on one side while faded out on the other side to give a nice faded, shaded appearance. One more thing that's important with marker brushes is using a marker color palette. Markers in real life come in all kinds of different shades of warm, cool, and neutral tones. I've also made my own version of these color palettes, specifically for using marker brushes in Procreate. And you can download one of these for free if you're interested. The link for that is in the description. So that's it. I really like using markers in pretty much all of my design sketches and design projects, as it's a really fast and easy way to add value while staying pretty loose and not focusing on being perfect. If you want to check out the marker pack that I've made or some of my other custom brush packs for Procreate, The link for these is in the description. I've also made a quick start guide for sketching physical products, so you can also get this for free along with the marker color palette if that's something that you're interested in. Thanks for watching the video, and I'll see you in the next one.